Well, welcome to Focus today, and well, there's a big rally coming up in Portland coming up on Friday, and we want to get more information about it. The Pro-Life Action League and the Citizens for a Pro-Life Society are pleased to announce that they're going to have their next Stand Up for Religious Freedom rally, which will take place this coming Friday up in Portland. And I am delighted to have with us today via Skype Lucy McVicker. She is the Stand Up for Religious Freedom rally spokesperson. And Lucy, nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Is it raining up there? Are you up there yet?
Oh yeah, it's definitely raining in Portland today. Nothing new.
This is great. Well, tell us about the rally coming up on Friday.
Okay, well the rally is going to be on Friday in Portland at Terry Shrunk Park. All of the information can be found on our Facebook page or by going to standupforreligiousfreedom.org, and you can find the Portland, Oregon link, and then send us an email for more information, and I'll write back to you to give you more information about where the rally is going to be, what to bring. We're asking that people bring their own signs from home. We will have some pre-made signs, but please bring your own signs.
Okay. What do you hope to accomplish during this time?
We're hoping to just raise awareness that this is a huge attack on our religious freedom. This is completely unprecedented. America was founded with the constitutional right of religion, that we could practice any religion that we wanted. That was one of the things that made America so great. And President Obama and his administration has really overstepped their role in serving the country by stripping away many Americans' their chance to practice their religious freedom in their workplace, for religious employers to maintain their identity. And so we're hoping to raise awareness amongst Portlanders and amongst all of Oregon and the greater Northwest that this is something that many of us feel very passionately about.
Now, it's primarily the policy that this administration has put forward through the Health and Human Services Department and that mandate. Can you explain how that affects people of faith?
Yes. The mandate is one that, the mandate was set in place with the Affordable Care Act. And the mandate will force religious employers to subsidize or pay for different contraceptive measures or birth control, sterilizations, abortions, things that go against their conscience and their religious tenets. This is something that completely goes against, like I said, all religious practices, especially for many Christian denominations, as well as all Catholics and even the Jewish religion. And so it's just something that's completely unprecedented. And
well, you know, the Catholic Church now has filed suit against the administration, or at least against the policy, which to me is just an incredible act of courage and bravery, and I applaud them. I think at this point, as Mike Huckabee said on Fox News, today we are all Catholics in this battle. But the Obama administration apparently has given this idea that there's an accommodation for people of faith. Can that be trusted?
The accommodation is completely a smoke and mirrors act. There's nothing in it that has any substance at all. In fact, the accommodation is basically, they said that this accommodation is one that, you know, the insurance is going to pay for the contraception and abortions. However, it's still the insurance premiums that are being paid by the religious employers that allow the...
Okay, we're talking to Lucy McVicker. She is the spokesperson for the upcoming rally, which will be Friday up in Portland. And this rally is put together by two organizations that are really well respected, the Pro-Life Action League and Citizens for Pro-Life Society. And the rally will be Friday there in Portland. And you can go to either one of those websites to get more information. It's expected to get a lot of to do with how the Obama administration through HHS has, excuse me, has really come out and created some policies against people of faith. And as you know now, and I applaud them, the Catholic Church has forcefully gone after this policy and has filed suit. And I would hope that other people of faith will join in and support them, and realize that this is an incredible attack of our freedom. So, Lucy, let me ask you this. Coming back to the accommodation, it still is a violation to assume that an insurance company is going to pay for this contraception when the whole deal then really doesn't deal with the faith issue that a lot of denominations and people of faith want to see. So where do you see this going in the long run, your organizations? Do you think this will be successful for the Catholic Church to sue the government on this one?
I do think it will be successful. At the end of the month, we have the Supreme Court who will be making their final judgment as to whether or not the Obamacare is constitutionally sound. So we have that. And then the benefit that we have with our side of it is we already know that the story's been won. Mm-hmm. We already know the end game. And so I do think that the Catholic Church will ultimately be victorious in this battle.
Now, how is these rallies going? How are they being attended?
The rallies, from what I hear across the country, there's hundreds of thousands of people across the country who are coming out for these rallies. I think the Obama administration has definitely awoken a sleeping giant amongst the Christian population, and I expect this to only grow.
Now, are there members of Congress paying any attention to these rallies? I mean, they're the ones that could stop this kind of policy if they want to, and we do have two fairly liberal U.S. senators here in the state of Oregon. Are they hearing the message?
I think there's some that aren't hearing the message. I wonder if our own Congress people from the state of Oregon are in fact hearing us. But I do know that there are good men and women across the country who are working tirelessly to get this revoked and to get the freedom of religion back to where it used to be.
All right. So what happens after these rallies? What do you want to come as an after effect from the rally?
I would love it if people continue to call in and write into their representatives. Put the pressure on them. You're the one who keeps them in office. So definitely let them know that if this isn't something that they take up or change their position on, you can give them the pink slip. And then also write into the newspapers, raise awareness. Do anything to just make your voice be heard that this is not something that you will tolerate.
All right. Now, there is a little bit of a conflict in that the issue of accessibility of contraception versus what the government is trying to do through this policy, and yet the people of faith trying to uphold what they believe is doctrine. I mean, it gets a little murky, doesn't it, at times?
It does get a little murky. The U.S. government, the Obama administration has said many times that this is an accessibility, it's increasing accessibility for people who would like to use contraceptive measures. However, if you look at how easy it is to get it, you can walk into any Planned Parenthood and they'll give you a prescription for it. Most contraceptives are $5 to $10, maybe $15, $20 a month. So they're already very, very reasonable. And if somebody doesn't have insurance, there's other ways to get them, such as with organizations such as Planned Parenthood. And so this whole accessibility thing has just been the Obama administration, trying to take away the pressure, or trying to take away the idea that this is something that has to do with freedom of religion. And so they're trying to kind of piggyback different issues that don't necessarily go together.
All right, now let me ask you this. We know that the Catholic Church is really involved. How about the Protestant Church? Are you seeing any organizations to join the Catholic movement on this?
There are some organizations that originally signed on to a joint letter that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops had issued. There were hundreds of organizations that signed on to that. But it's been difficult getting Christian denominations involved in the effort on the day-to-day battle. And so I would please ask all Christian denominations to please join efforts with the Catholic Church. This is something that all of us as Christians need to be united against this huge, huge evil that is trying to sweep through our country.
All right. Again, where can people get more information? What are the websites?
standupforreligiousfreedom.org. Just search for the Portland, Oregon Rally. And then if you go onto Facebook, you can access us at Stand Up for Religious Freedom Rally and then -Portland, and that should pop up.
Okay. Now, that is Friday. What time?
Noon.
Noon. And where?
It has Terry Shrunk Park.
Okay, good. Lucy, thank you. Keep up the fight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back on Focus Today.
Airport, the only name you need to know.
I do a lot of shopping in Medford, and I'm so glad that Airport now carries Buick.
Airport supports our community, and that's why I support them.
I appreciate AirportChevy.com. I got to see everything I needed before I drove down.
For the greenest of lawns and amazing gardens.
The Grange knows.
For happy pets, backyard birds, and that perfect gift.
The Grange knows.
For the ranch and the farm. Or a great pair of jeans.
The Grange knows.
For helpful advice, come to the experts that know, or find Floyd online anytime. Grange Co-op.
Let's grow.
Medford Construction, a leader in the construction industry. From concept to completion, we will deliver to you the highest quality workmanship at the lowest price possible. Our design build team will complete your project on time and on budget. Give us a call for an evaluation on making your home more user-friendly for special needs and the elderly. For great prices without sacrificing quality, give Medford Construction a call or visit us at medfordconstruction.com.
We probably got 100 people working in every corner of this house.
Get the shingles up there and put them on line. Let's go.
What you've given is an incredible change in lifestyle.
Is everybody ready to bring this family home?
The Lord has sent you people to do this for me.
Building a difference. 8:30 tomorrow on the Dove TV.
This is the first truck I've ever bought, and I'm now a fan of Airport.
We shopped 2 other dealerships in Medford, and Airport had the best deal.
The financing was easy.
The service department has a great shuttle. They take you where you need to go and pick you up, too.
Airport, the only name you need to know.
One of the programs and program contents that we receive most of the comments on here on the Dove TV and the Dove Radio has to deal with the subject of apologetics, defending the faith. And just earlier I had a chance to talk to Carl Gallups. He's authored a book called The Magic Man in the Sky. Now that sounds kind of mysterious, but he is a pastor who is effectively defending the Christian faith. And I think you'll find this interview to be very fascinating. You may want to check the book out. That's what it looks like right there. And it's put out by WorldNet Daily Books. You can Google it there and take a look at it. The Magic Man in the Sky by Carl Gallups. Join me now with that conversation. Well, Pastor Gallups, what a joy to have you with us today. And the book, The Magic Man in the Sky, you know, I think the title alone just kind of grabbed you. Say, well, now, what is he talking about? How'd you come up with this title?
Yeah, well, it does. Well, the title is provocative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, the title goes to a common secularist argument or attack against the Christian faith, and it goes something like this. Well, I would rather believe in settled scientific fact than in some magic man in the sky. Or I don't believe in God for the same reason I don't believe in the tooth fairy. So I just decided to take those words and to turn them around on the secularist argument, and at the same time to create a little attraction to the book. You'd be surprised how many people have been attracted to picking up the book, looking at the book, asking questions about the book by the title alone.
Well, it's a great resource of apologetics. And, you know, the whole subject of apologetics, Pastor, these days is really on the forefront. In fact, some of the shows that we get the highest review on, both radio and television, have to do with this subject. So there seems to be a real interest. Who is God? Who are we? Where are we going? Why are we here? You know, the big 4 questions.
Right, right. Well, this book answers all of those questions and so many more. There are dozens of profound questions that are answered in the book, and I just felt that it was time to have another presentation of good, solid Christian apologetics, but yet it's fresh and breezy, and I deal with some heavy topics, but I tried to deal with it at a level that almost anybody could understand, especially from high school up. And so far, the reviews are pouring in, and folks seem to be loving it, and they seem to be saying that that's exactly how it's written, that they're really getting it, and there's some good fresh illustrations and some fresh insight in this book.
All right, let's take on a couple of those topics. How do you handle evolution?
Well, you know, that's interesting. Because I come from a biblical worldview without apology, because I believe in a literal creation, I happen to believe, just at the belief level, at my faith level, at my biblical level, that evolution is not the answer. It's not the explanation of how we arrived here. However, my book doesn't set out to disprove evolution. I don't want to get in a 500-page scientific debate about the proof and for evolution. But what my book does do is it very solidly proves, demonstrates that evolution, origin/evolution postulation is not settled science. There are some scientific aspects to the study of evolution, our studies in DNA, our studies in speciation, etc. And I deal with all this in the book. But the bottom line, the thing that I prove in the book is that although evolution is an interesting theory, and by the way, it's the only theory that has any credence at all when you leave God completely out of the picture. But although it is interesting theory, it should not and cannot scientifically or logically be declared as settled scientific fact. And I prove this in the book.
Wow, that's good. Let's go over to, because you do deal with a little bit in there about eschatology and end-time prophecies. And where do you think we are in God's timetable?
Well, thank you for asking that. I get asked that question a lot, and I do a lot of conferences, prophecy conferences. Here's the balance that I keep to it all. First of all, Jesus said a couple things to the religious elite of his day who should have known the prophecies about his first coming. They should have known that they were talking to the Christ. He said, you know, it's amazing. You can tell the signs of the times. You can, you can tell the signs of the weather by looking at the skies and saying, well, it's going to be this or that. It's going to rain tomorrow. He said, but yet you cannot discern the signs of the times. And he called them hypocrites and foolish because they couldn't take the scriptures and look at what was happening around them and realize that the Christ was standing right before them. On the other hand, that same Jesus said that no man knows the day or the hour. And so we take from that we should be very careful about setting dates and times. So here's what I say. I look at the broad panoramic sweep of prophecy concerning end times, and here's what I know for a fact. The nation of Israel has returned to the land. In 1948, Israel returned. That was a 2,500-year-old prophecy that was laying dormant in the scriptures and until 1948. Now, there are many scriptures that indicate that when Israel returns to the land, basically the countdown clock to the last days begins. In other words, you're very close to the return of the Lord. Now, I'm not setting dates and times. It may be another generation or two. It may be another few hundred years. But the bottom line is we've been living in the last days ever since Jesus rose out of that tomb. But when Israel came back to the land, in my humble biblical opinion, that the countdown clock started. However, there are a couple of other huge prophecies that are happening right before our eyes in the news every day. I talk about them in my book. One of them is Jesus said in Matthew 24:14, I believe is the scripture reference. He said, you know, when this gospel of the kingdom is being preached into all the world, then the end will come. And by the way, the word end doesn't mean the end of everything. It doesn't mean doom and gloom for those that know the Lord. It means the end of man's criminal, corrupt reign and the beginning of Jesus' righteous reign. But Jesus said, when this gospel is being preached into all the world, then the end will come. Well, we're living in those days. Yeah. And we're the only generation in 10,000 years of human history, we're the only generation to see that being fulfilled. But more striking is the Ezekiel 38 prophecy, in my opinion, which speaks of this coalition of nations that conspire together in the last days. That's the implication of that scripture, to attack a restored and returned Israel that's living securely in the land. Well, when that prophecy was written, it was written 2,500 years ago. There was no Israel, and there was no Israel living securely in the land and returned to the land until 1948. But what do we see happening now? For the first time in human history, we see this coalition of nations, and Ezekiel 38 lists nations, odd names, they're tribal names that come from Genesis chapter 10, Table of Nations. But when you extrapolate those to modern-day names and modern-day nations, what you discover, surprisingly, is that Ezekiel prophesied 2,500 years ago that in the last days, after Israel is returned to the land, Iran, Russia, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Libya, Saudi Arabia, these nations would begin to conspire together for the destruction of Israel. And what are we watching on our television sets right now? So yes, we're living in prophetic times is my answer. We're living in biblical times. We are living in the last days in that Israel is in the land. The gospel is going worldwide. The nations are conspiring against Israel. The coalitions are taking place like never before in human history. But I'm not setting dates and times. My general answer is yes, we're living in the last days. The countdown clock has begun.
You know, the other thing that you do, Pastor Gallups, is that you spend quite a bit of time dealing with worldviews. And I think that is a key because you do the contrasting there of the worldviews. And maybe you can highlight that a little bit for us.
Yes, thank you. Well, worldview, of course, as you know and your audience knows, just speaks to the platform, the foundational platform from which we live our lives. Right. I come, as I said in the beginning, I come from a biblical worldview. What does that mean? That means that I, to the best of my ability, with God's help, I measure what I see happening in life and the decisions I make, my life choices, I measure them through the Word of God. What does God's Word say about this? So I come from a biblical worldview. But a person's worldview is, everyone has a worldview, and a person's worldview is extremely important to the foundation of their life. In my book, I outline the three major worldviews in which all 7 billion of us fall. All 7 billion people on the face of the earth fall within one of these three major worldviews. I suppose somebody could take those worldviews and dissect them down into subgroups, but I just deal with these three major groups, and here they are. The secular worldview. Generally speaking, that worldview says there is no need for a God of any kind. Evolution is the answer. The evolution proposition, of course, fits squarely in the secular worldview. Atheism, most of agnosticism, fits within the secular worldview. In other words, man is the answer. Man is the be-all, the end-all. Morality is just based upon the whims of cultures and societies and changing time and man, the secular worldview. Then there's what I call the religious worldview. That is all of the religiosity in the world fits into this lump, and that includes some 250 different brands of religion and all of their subsets and denominations. So you can hug a tree and sing to it and worship Mother Nature, or you can dance around a fire, or you can rub a little fat man's belly, or you can get on a prayer rug and bow down 3 times to Mecca every day. I mean, all of those fall into this religious worldview, this innate desire within man to worship something or someone. He understands that somehow he's not his own creator. And by the way, the Bible makes it clear that God has put that very nature within us so that we would seek him. But then the third worldview I call the biblical worldview. It's separate from the religious worldview in that it is so distinctly different. The biblical worldview alone speaks of a coming one in the person of Jesus Christ, reveals that that coming one did come, and he fulfilled dozens and dozens of specific prophecies that were written hundreds and some of them even 1,000 years before he came. He did go to Calvary's cross. He did rise from the grave. We boast a resurrected Savior. So the biblical worldview is distinctly different. It's set apart. It tells us that we didn't come from monkeys. There is a God. We are created with value and dignity and worth and purpose, and that there is a moving purpose to our life, and it is found and centered in our Creator, especially in our restored relationship with Jesus Christ. So those are the three worldviews, and everybody falls within one of those worldviews.
All right, in closing, let me ask you, any surprises in the book?
Yeah, lots of surprises. Yeah, next question.
Oh, come on, give me a little hint here.
Oh, well, let me just, I'll tell you this. There are a lot of surprises in the book. It's filled with humor. I'm a humorous person. I'm a positive person overall. It's filled with a lot of fresh illustrations. Several of the illustrations that are in the book, God gave to me. I've never seen them anywhere. I'm sure after the book has become so popular, I'm sure we'll see them everywhere now, and I'm honored by that. But the Lord gave me some really fresh illustrations that people have read the book and they've said, oh my gosh, I've never thought of it this way before. You know, Pastor, you've nailed it. I'll never look at life the same again. But I guess the biggest surprise and the biggest claim to fame that the book makes is that we irrefutably, I say we because, you know, so many editors and people went into this, but I irrefutably prove the existence of God. Now, before you cut me off, let me just say, it's not so much that I prove the existence of God, and I know to use the word irrefutably sounds awfully bodacious, but the bottom line is this: God has proven himself irrefutably. He says in his word, I have done this thing so that you will know that I alone am God, and beside me there is no other. And what I do is expound upon what God claimed was his proof to mankind that he exists, and I show it, I unravel it, I unveil it before the eyes of the reader so that they can see that they are looking at it every single day. And it is irrefutable, it is undeniable that God said it way before it happened, and here it is, and only the God of the Bible said it, and only the Bible records it, and it is on our television sets every day so that we are without excuse. We have proof that God exists, and it's irrefutable. That's a good surprise of the book.
Oh, it's wonderful. All right, called The Magic Man in the Sky by Pastor Carl Gallups, and let me encourage you to get it put out by WorldNet Daily Books, and I'm sure you can check it out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, maybe even check it out at Evangel. Pastor Gallups, you're a hoot.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, well, there you go. Quite a guy, a lot of energy there. Again, the name of the book, The Magic Man in the Sky. Check it out. Google it, WorldNet Daily Books, or take a look at it, Amazon, or Barnes & Noble. Well, coming up next, our own Jerry Bilden had an interesting conversation with Mr. David Bray about Madison Rising Band. Now, this is what's interesting about this. Talks about the pop culture and politics and the upcoming election. We'll have that for you in a few moments here on Focus Today.
Airport, the only name you need to know.
Airport had my dream car, the Buick LaCrosse.
They made it easier to buy my car here.
I don't need to shop around anymore because Airport gives me the best deal.
We did save more than what we expected at Airport.
Son como mis amigos.
Hi, I'm Tim the Timinator from Four Seasons Nursery. Thank you for watching and supporting the Dove and Christian Broadcasting. Like the folks at the Dove, we at Four Seasons value honesty, integrity, and quality. So if you're looking for great garden products such as vegetables, flowers, shrubs, or trees, come by and check us out. I'm sure you'll find the success you're looking for.
Four Seasons Nursery, half a mile north of Vilas Road on Crater Lake Avenue.
Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Why are you still sitting on that couch? You know you could be out there cooking for a living. You speak food. That's why you got to call Le Cordon Bleu. They'll help get you out there with training in less time than you think. Sounds good, right? So grab your phone right now and call Le Cordon Bleu. They'll send you a complimentary career guide so you can see what it's really like to work in the culinary arts.
Call 1-800-761-0650 or text GOLCB25 to 94576. Call or text now.
Did you call yet?
Explore a timeless land.
Watch your head.
If you want to go in the path of the Bible, if you want to come to Israel and see history, this is where you start.
Host Barry Siegel discovers some of the Holy Land's best-kept ancient and modern secrets.
We walked the streets of 2,000 years ago. The walls of Jerusalem are just springing with life.
Roots and reflections.
That Abrahamic blessing is too much.
7:30 tonight on the Dove TV.
Sababa.
I've been using their service department for years because they get the job done on time and at the price they quoted.
The amount of money I saved at the airport was substantial.
We know we got the best deal because we check prices online.
Airport, the only name you need to know.
Well, there's a lot going on in our world today, and some people call it the pop culture. The question is, what does the pop culture have to do with politics, and in particular, the upcoming election? Well, our own Jerry Bilden had an interesting conversation with David Bray, and let's join Jerry and David now in their conversation.
I'd just like to welcome Dave Bray, lead singer of the group Madison Rising. And Dave, thanks for taking time. I know you got a busy schedule, but thanks for coming and talking with us today.
Hey, thanks, Jerry. I'm actually at the Young Americans Foundation today in Washington, D.C. I'm broadcasting you from their conference room / Oval Office sort of thing they have going on, so it's a pleasure. Thanks,
you're welcome. Hey, it looks good, too. You got the flag in the background there. It looks very, very patriotic. And I know, Dave, that you're a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service, first of all. But can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I served as an 8404 corpsman for 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I did a 6-month MEU Marine Expeditionary Unit, which was our float to the Mediterranean. We got called off the Mediterranean, and we ended up defending Liberia and basically the American embassy there for roughly 3 months. And that was where we did most of our, our tour. And then we packed it up and we came home. And it's nice to say that all our men and women came back from that tour.
All right. When you were in the service, did you have a chance to play music at all?
Yeah, I was actually on a helo carrier, LPH-9, the USS Guam, which has long been decommissioned, I believe, by now. And there was guys in the helo company that could, they'd bring instruments and things like that, and not like me, who was with the Marines, who you had a sea bag, a pair of socks, and a set of boots and a gun. But these guys had instruments, so I did get to play a little bit on the float. I also kept in contact with some of my buddies back home that I had started playing with before I had joined the service. And we would send back and forth, tapes and audio and things like that, and wrote songs for when I got out.
All right. Well, now you have plenty of chance to play music. You're in the band Madison Rising, and you guys have been called, I love this, an openly conservative band. Now, I've also read that you're a patriotic band. Tell me a little bit about the band and the message in your music.
Well, first off, we're the group of guys that's in the band, the musicians, are absolutely top-notch. Some of the guys went to Berklee School of Music. They went to GW, Rochester University. One of the guys played with Scott Stapp from the band Creed. And, just the level of musicianship in the band is really, really high, and we're on par with anything that's out there today. I myself had been in music for 15 years with a good bit of success on sort of the touring circuits. But in general, we are a patriotic, conservative band. We're proud of our country. We're proud of our men and women who serve. And those are the things we sing about. We sing about how great this country is instead of bashing it like Springsteen does and, a lot of these other guys who claim they're patriots. And we're a rock genre. We're not your country artists, which nothing against country, but I like my patriotism with a little more, what's the word for it, harder edge and rock and roll feel. So we wanted to bring something like that to the table, and that's what Madison Rising is doing. And if you listen to our version of the Star Spangled Banner on YouTube, I think you'll definitely get a feel about how we feel about our country and how passionate we are.
Outstanding. And I like how you made the distinction between country music and rock music. And I'm glad that you're doing it in rock music because I, like you, like it with a little bit harder edge to it. But the rock and roll music industry is got a little bit more of a liberal slant to it. How are you guys received?
Very well, actually. Surprisingly, we're generationally received across the entire spectrum. I've had 80-year-old women come up to me and say that they've been coming to tea parties and things like that, and they finally found a show that they enjoyed and they got into. I'm kind of an enigmatic singer. I try to involve the crowd. I try to get everybody amped up, and the band helps out. We're just, like I said, it's a great group of guys, and the musicianship is there, so we don't fumble too much, and we keep everybody in the audience excited about being patriotic, and that's all that really matters to us. We, like I said, we've played with a lot of country artists who definitely they encapsulate their own crowd, but we amp it up another level, and Madison Rising is what is needed in the conservative movement to give it more palatability to the younger audience and the rock people.
I think that's great. Now, I did read that you had mentioned that conservatives may be setting themselves up for political suicide this fall. What do you mean by it, and can we avoid it?
We can avoid it, first off and foremost, if we get on board with like exactly what Madison Rising is doing and get out there in front of the kids and the youth and the swing vote, which is basically the 40 and under crowd or the non-participating vote, and wake them up to vote for our side. If we basically just take and expose the people that are involved now with the current administration and expose them for what they're doing and how much debt they're building up and piling up upon us and what they're doing to our military and our defense, we can win. But if we just put the staunch conservative white paper talking head thing in front of the people, again, it's going to turn into a preaching to the choir type atmosphere, and we're not going to build any momentum for this election. What Madison Rising really wants to do is try to get 1 million hits on our YouTube page for the Star Spangled Banner. And we really want to promote just in general patriotism to both sides, left or right. And we believe if you do that and awaken the people to exactly what this country needs, it'll come to fruition and that we can win. But if we use the same mechanisms and the same sort of torturous, boring devices that the conservative movement is so prone to going through and using those mediums, we could set ourselves up for another failure if we continue to let the cool kids sort of bully us around. And it's time for us to step up and let them know that patriotism is cool. Believing in your country and setting our youth up for success instead of failure is ultimately the goal.
Man, I'll tell you what, you guys need to get out and say that over and over and over again, which brings us to touring. You guys need to be on the road, especially this summer. What are your plans?
We have a couple things in the process right now. We're doing a lot of booking right now to set up an economical tour, and once again, something our government knows nothing about. We're trying to do it, save as much gas, fuel money, things like that. We're still basically a very grassroots organization. We're looking for supporters and help. We have gotten a lot of help from a lot of big donors, and it's really enabled us to move to the next level and get our message out there to a group of kids and to the young and youth of this nation. And it's working. It's something that is on a micro scale is working, and we want to take it to that next level, like you said, and do a big tour. But these things, they do cost money, and we want to do it as as efficiently as we possibly can.
Are you making any endorsements this year?
We have to endorse Romney. We have to get behind him, and we have to push for basically a change. Unfortunately, we have to use what they used against us in 2008. I really liked Romney in 2008. I hope that he can pull it through this time. He needs to get his chin up, though.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to start, leading with his chin, and instead of being on the defense, he needs to take the offense against the policies of Obama, and I think we have a chance.
You know what? He needs to take you guys out on the road to open for him.
We've been saying that. We're trying to get in touch with his people.
Boy.
We could do that. It would definitely ignite his base.
It really would. And you guys, there would be so much mileage that would be gained with that. I think that his folks should really look at that. I got a question about one of your songs. You got a song on your album called "The Right to Bear." Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's self-explanatory. I mean, it's the Second Amendment. It's one of the most important ones. It protects all the others. It's basically, our citizens are soldiers of our Constitution. They may not wear camouflage, but they do and may have to be called upon to protect that Constitution against, even if it is our own government. I mean, that's basically what the document says, and we need to stand by it. And, I say more people that go out there, buy weapons, buy ammo, charge it on your credit card, let them know you're buying ammo, let them know you have weapons. Be proud, be members of the NRA. Stand up and get our numbers up there. I'm a gun owner. I'm a concealed carry guy. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, so I'm unarmed. But the point of the matter is, when I go to, anywhere with my family, I have protection, and I feel safer as an American because just how deteriorated our society is becoming. And it's a shame to say that you need it, but this day and age, you need it more than ever.
Well, what do you say to those folks who say it's important to protect our rights, but only certain rights?
I can't say I'd agree with him, especially when it comes to the right to bear arms. I think, like I said before, that one protects all the other rights.
And I think that brings us to the next question, because there are certain rights that some folks think are important to protect, and then, you know, they ignore others, and then you get the media that goes along with it, which brings up this question about media bias. And I just saw where Dan Rather again was denying that there is such thing as media bias. Do you have a position on that, Dave?
We do have a position. I have a position, and you know, everybody has their. I mean, if you just look at the Trayvon Martin case, it takes both topics we just spoke about and balls them together. How the media manipulated the 911 call. I mean, you look at these things and it makes you really question what is coming over the airwaves and how it's being interpreted by the youth and by different sectors of the American culture. And it was embraced that this guy was, you know, going after this guy for racial reasons. And it just ended up not being the case. Once again, people, they see something on the news and they react to it, and it ends up feeding into more violence. And it's bad news. It's not good. Yeah. But we have a song on our album called "Where Was the Media Then?" Yes. And it actually talks and covers these exact same topics. You know, we can do something that's great for this country and could really unify them, and a story that could really bring people together, but they won't run it or they won't spin it because it's too successful or too red, white, and blue, so to speak. But if you dig up some dirt on somebody and all of a sudden, before you know it, you have people with signs, you know, closing down streets. It's ridiculous.
You know, it's hard to speak about the conservative movement in this country without the name Ronald Reagan coming up. Now, you have talked a little bit about Ronald Reagan in music. You have a song, "In the Days That Reagan Ruled." What's that about?
Well, that's obviously, I mean, that just talks about how great this guy was. We could really use another Ronald Reagan in this day and age, somebody who knew how to speak to people, knew how to communicate exactly the way we felt across the aisle and across borders and across, you know, nations. Between him and Thatcher, if you go back and look at how they worked together, this globe was a different world back then.
Yeah, it really was.
In the Days That Reagan Ruled really encompasses just what kind of guy he was. And like I said, I'm at the Young Americans Foundation right now in D.C., who is involved with the Reagan Ranch and things like that. So it's a really, really cool time to bring him up and you basically pay homage and, you know, love the guy.
Yeah, well, you know, Ronald Reagan wasn't much of a rock and roll kind of guy, but I have a feeling he would be a big Madison Rising fan. And,
I think you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get folks to go to the YouTube. Tell them again where we want 1 million hits, and where do you want them to go?
Sure. Our goal is by Election Day, 1 million hits on the YouTube channel for Madison Rising for the Star Spangled Banner. So if you Google or go to Madison Rising under YouTube, look up Star Spangled Banner, watch the video. It's bringing tears to people's eyes. It's, you know, raising the hairs on the arms. It's really a powerful message about this nation, about our country. And it gives a new taste to how cool being patriotic can be.
And it's fun talking to a true patriot. Dave Brave, Madison Rising, thank you for spending time with us. And we hope to see you out here one day.
Thanks, Gary. I'll definitely stop by to see you, and we'll do some of that steelhead fishing you were talking about.
Well, sooner or later, Jerry gets his fishing in. Ah, yes. Well, Dave Brave, what a great guy and a great group doing a great thing. You may want to check it out, become one of the million who watch the Star Spangled Banner online. Check it out. Well, coming up next, we're going to talk about fathers a little bit, but in particular, we're going to go right to the men. Men, we're going to talk about your PSA. Yes, and well, I'll save it. When we get back, we'll be talking to Armin Brott. Be with us here in just a few moments.
I've been riding my bike for over 11 years. Well, not constantly, but a lot. And even volunteer in the annual Mountain Lakes Challenge. But getting there, I'm taking my Subaru. I use my Subaru for everything, especially getting my bike safely up the mountains for long rides, which is why I got rid of my hybrid and bought a Subaru. I'm Sarah, and that's what makes a Subaru my Subaru.
Visit SOSubaru.com and tell us what makes a Subaru your Subaru.
Southern Oregon Subaru on Biddle Road, Medford.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leakender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leakender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leakender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leakender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leakender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-sized can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-445-0100 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-445-0100.
There's one place you can go every morning for the latest information and weather. It's 11:30 now past the hour. We got some rain out there and heavy snow through the mountain passes.
Throughout the morning, we get your viewpoint on the world.
We've got the latest local and national news every quarter hour.
Well, in our news headlines today, there's optimism that home prices may stabilize.
And all the latest from the world of sports.
Get your day off to a great start.
Mornings on the Dove.
Every weekday from 6 a.m.
It's the best way to start your day. Well, men, this next part of the program is for you, and in particular, men, we're going to be talking about your PSA. But what a delight to have back with us Armin Brott. Now, we had him a year ago, right close to Father's Day. We talked about all of his experience. He's really a best-selling author. He talks about dads and military dads. He's a former Marine, editor of Talking About Men's Health blog. He's a host of a weekly Armed Forces Network radio program and the author of quite a few books, and The Military Father is one of them. And he's the advisor to Men's Health Network. And Armin, great to have you back with us today. You're looking good this time. Last time we just heard you, now we see you.
I had to get up and get cleaned up and everything special for the occasion.
Oh, you know, hey, where are you? Are you in the Bay Area?
I'm in Oakland, California.
Yeah. Okay, nice to have you with us today. Well, you have become concerned about the whole PSA screening process. We men have our PSA checked quite regularly, at least we should.
We are.
But now I guess there's concern as to whether or not this screening is going to be done anymore.
Yeah, this is one of the most disturbing things that really came out of, I think, healthcare legislation probably for the last 20 or 30 years. There's the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, which came out with this recommendation that said men who are not symptomatic should not have PSA tests. And the PSA test, just to bring people up to date, is prostate-specific antigen. It's a blood test. It's not invasive. There's no harm that's being done, taking a little bit of blood. And that gives an indication about whether a particular antigen that shows up in the blood is elevated. And if it is, then that would warrant possibly observing a little bit more, doing some additional tests. But so they're saying, if you don't have symptoms already, you shouldn't be tested. And what they're saying, and I'll go into this a little bit more, but the thing that really irked me more than anything else was that it's based on the theory that men are too stupid to know what they're doing, basically. Wow. Because the recommendation says, well, we're recommending against this test because what happens is men go off and they take extreme measures and they have their prostate removed or they have chemotherapy or something that can produce all sorts of other negative side effects like impotence and problems urinating and things like that. But the reality is, I would like to know if there's a potential problem. I'd like to know that there is a problem, possibly, so I can take some choices. And if I want to have something extreme, okay, that's all right. Hopefully my doctor will talk me out of it. Mm-hmm. But to say we're not going to allow this because you might do something is maybe what you would say to a 3-year-old, but it's not what you say to a 50-year-old man.
Well, why the push to eliminate this? I mean, what's the benefit here?
You know, I don't know. I've been really looking at this thing and trying to restrain myself from thinking that it's some sort of anti-male bias or something. I think it's just ignorance is basically what it comes down to. And that people just do not understand. And they based it on some surveys and some research that was fundamentally flawed. They have, if you're ever doing a research study, you have to have a screening group or control group that's not having the procedure done. And you have a group, the other group, that is having the procedure done, whatever it is. And so the research that they looked at, 50% of the people who were not supposed to be screened, they were in the control group to see what happens if nothing changes, 50% of them got screened. And in the group that was supposed to be screened, about 20% of them didn't get screened. So that's just massive. I mean, if you're off by 1% or 2%, okay. But if you're making recommendations that are going to affect the lives of millions, I mean, literally millions of people, you've got to be more careful with your research. And they completely disregarded CDC and NIH and a lot of other organizations. The Veterans Administration, for example, finds that Vietnam veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange, much higher risk. There was a study that came out last week that I'm fortunate enough that this doesn't affect me, although my dad had prostate cancer, so that affects my risk. But bald men have a higher risk of having prostate cancer tumors. So there's all this stuff that's coming out, and they just completely disregarded it.
All right, so what are the symptoms that they're saying if you don't worry about it?
Well, you should have some significant problems urinating. You should have probably back pain. You would have difficulty functioning. You might have impotence. And you would have another test that would indicate that there's a much more significant problem there than the PSA, which again is not an absolute predictor. But what it does is it shows that there's an elevated risk because there's something that's running around your blood that is associated with prostate problems. It can also be associated with benign prostate problems, which is just an enlargement of the prostate, which can interfere with urination. And that's not cancer. And what happens is you have additional tests. You maybe have a biopsy to see what's going on in there. And that can really tell you whether there's some actual cancer happening or whether it's just something that can be treated with vitamins and drugs and lifestyle changes.
All right, let's go back to the Vietnam vet. They're in their 60s now, and if they were exposed to Agent Orange, how dangerous is this?
Well, the Agent Orange itself is not apparently the problem. I mean, the Agent Orange was enough a big deal, but what it is it elevates the risk of having a much more aggressive type of cancer that by the time these symptoms would show up, that the task force was saying you got to wait for, by the time those symptoms show up, it's pretty much too late for these guys. You need to be able to catch this, and that's what the PSA is all about. You need to be able to catch this thing before the symptoms show up so that you can start doing something about it. The hard thing about prostate cancer is 1 in 6 men, you probably hear these statistics all the time, 1 in 6 men will have it at some point. And a lot of doctors, I do a lot of interviews with medical people, and they say most men die with prostate cancer as opposed to of it because it's very, very slow growing in most cases. But when you have Agent Orange and a few other risk factors, then you have a much more aggressive, much more damaging, and much more fatal sooner kind of a condition.
All right, let's capitalize on some of your research. I know that men should have it checked regularly, but at what age should they start having it checked every year?
At least 50, and that should be the latest you have it start having it checked every year. If you have a number of risk factors, if you're a veteran who's exposed to Agent Orange, for example, if you have not as much hair as you used to have, if you are an African American, you have double the risk. If you have somebody in your family, father, brother, who had prostate cancer, you have double or triple the risk. All of those things mean you should be tested much sooner, say 40. But 50 is the absolute latest, and it's something that there's an additional complication, which is a lot of doctors don't even ask. And so men have got to understand this. They've got to take some control over their health care and go into the doctor. When you're having a regular physical, which more men should be having anyway, but when you're having your regular physical, you got to say, hey, listen, you didn't mention anything about the prostate or the PSA test. How about we throw that in there as long as I'm having my cholesterol checked? Because it's the same blood test. You can do it with the same blood.
So now we've seen where PSA numbers can go up and come down naturally, but if they are elevated for a certain amount of time, that's when somebody becomes concerned, because I've heard people maybe have their prostates removed too soon. I mean, they just panicked and had it taken out.
Yes, and that's exactly what this task force is worried about. And there is such a thing as having it done too soon. And unfortunately, that's not a reversible process, which is one of the reasons why one of the basic tenets of prostate cancer treatment is watching and waiting. Is let's do the PSA test now, and if it comes back with, say, 5, and then let's wait and see what happens in 3 or 4 months. You want to get a baseline and start moving up. I mean, it's like cholesterol in a way that I know some people who've got cholesterol in the 400s, and they are the healthiest people in the world. You can have a naturally high level of something. What you need to find out is where is it going from there? So if these guys go from 400 to 500 cholesterol, that's a problem. And if you go from a 5 to a 25, that's a problem. But if you go from a 1 to a 2 or a 5 to a 6 or something, it's not as big of a deal. But most of us who are not doctors, we need to have somebody who can help us through this.
Is it treatable?
Oh, it is treatable. Yes, it's a very treatable kind of condition if it's caught early. If it's not caught early, then it metastasizes, meaning it can spread all over the rest of the body. And when it hits the lymph nodes, then you have something that becomes a really, really difficult situation. But often they can cut the cancers out. There are different sorts of procedures that, again, catching it early, and then the next step would be a biopsy to pinpoint exactly where the cancer is and to decide what to do next. But it is something that is treatable, again, when caught early.
All right, a couple things here that, again, men, you should be getting this checked regularly, and especially if you're over 50. All right, now let's come back. Are there things you can do in a dietary way to control this?
There are. I think it's generally a question of eating right, not eating a bunch of garbage. I mean, you shouldn't be having as much pizza. You should be staying away from unhealthy foods. I think that's generally one of the things. And then there's also some vitamins and minerals or vitamins and supplements that people take. St. John's wort is one of them. I'm completely blanking on the one that I take every morning. I'll come back to it. But there are a number of supplements that are associated with lowering prostate cancer risk. Drinking wine, a glass of wine every day is good. Having tomato sauce, and for some reason it's the cooked tomatoes that are better than just having a tomato off the shelf. But those kinds of things are also associated with reducing prostate cancer risk.
Genetic? Is it genetic?
Well, it is genetic to the extent that if you have somebody in the family who's already had it, your risk is double or triple. So that there is that component. You are at an elevated risk, yeah.
Now, there was a period there, and I don't know if it's still going on. You do the research, and again, we're talking to Armin Brott. He does a Talking About Men's Health blog. By the way, where can people get to your blog there?
It's talkingaboutmenshealth.com with no apostrophe in the men's health.
Okay.
And we're updating. We've got articles going up there a couple times a week at least. And there's a lot of commentary, a lot of stuff about this particular issue. We're talking a lot about it, and about policy, pretty much anything that has to do with men's health and the health of those in their families as well, because we're looking at men's health not in some sort of an abstract way that it's just the guys. We are healthier when our families are healthier as well.
All right. There was a period of time, and it could still be going on, where the cure was just take it out. And what we're finding out now, at least I know quite a few of my friends that just had that done, and now they regret it. I realize that's one of the options, but is that really one to really look forward to?
No, I think that's looked at pretty much as the last possible option. Because it used to be, you're exactly right, it used to be you just take it out. And that was kind of the way that medicine dealt with a lot of things. If you have a problem, you just take it out. But because of the fact that the prostate, if you want to look at this thing online, you can find a anatomically oriented website that will show you the prostate itself kind of goes right around the urethra, which is where the urine goes through.
Yeah.
So it can, that's why it conflicts or constricts, the urine flow. But it also, when that's taken out, it's almost impossible to avoid having some sort of erectile dysfunction later on. And that's probably what your friends are most concerned about. First of all, they never may be able to pee like they used to, and they may never be able to have an erection again. And those things are certainly risk factors that you don't want to subject yourself to unless you absolutely have to. So there's biopsies, there's chemotherapy, there's radiation, there's a freezing procedure, which is not a whole lot better than taking it out, but they're refining that. And there are things that are in the works all the time that you absolutely want to check out before you just start signing up for surgery.
What's alarming to me, Armin, about this trend of maybe not pursuing a PSA test is that it could end up in the insurance industry where they won't pay for it. Are you concerned about that?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, can you imagine what would happen if somebody came out, and say that this same task force came out and said, you know what, breast cancer, there's kind of a lot of false positives with the mammograms. We're not going to cover those anymore. I mean, imagine what the lunacy would happen there. And it's exactly the same thing that the insurance companies are basing a lot of their decisions of whether to pay for stuff on whether this task force recommends that it's a good procedure or not.
Wow. Okay. Again, it's called Talking About Men's Health blog, talkingaboutmenshealth.com. We've had the picture of it up there on the screen a couple of times. There's the address right there. Armin, thank you. Can we get you back?
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Hey, thanks for your tenacity on following men's health, and God bless you, and we'll get you back real soon.
Thanks very much.
Okay, and we'll see you tomorrow on Focus Today.